Red King Cobra. Get ready to meet one of the most exotic reptiles in the world. I'm talking about the ultra-rare red spitting cobra. There's already nothing scarier on Earth than a cobra, but when you make it red and allow it to spit venom, you have a real nightmare on your hands. This specific cobra is bright red and able to spit venom at its victim from at least 6 feet away. By the time this cobra has you in its sights, you're pretty much already done for. But how does such an ability work? Well, the snake actually squeezes the muscles that are around its venom gland, and the pressures create a jet of venom through a thin tube inside the snake's fang. The toxic liquid then hits a splash plane surface and squirts out of the serpent's mouth. If you happen to be on the wrong side of the spit, you can find yourself immediately blinded. If the venom hits you in the face, it's not going to poison you the same as if you were bitten, but if it gets in your eyes, you might never see again. This is one serpent you definitely don't want to tangle with. And if you're wondering how such an evolutionary mechanism came to be, most scientists believe that it's a defensive act that cobras used before humans were around, when the world was occupied by hoofed animals. It was a way that the snakes could avoid being trampled by things like deer. Oriental garden lizard. By far one of the weirder exotic reptiles is the Oriental garden lizard. It's an insectivorous lizard found primarily in Malaysia, but what makes it so unique is the way it looks. It's an extremely colorful lizard that can change its color between black and red or a mixture of both. But even more remarkable is that during the breeding season, the Oriental garden lizard can turn its head and shoulders into a bright orange color while transforming its throat into a dark black color. It uses this to attract females, as every one of these fancy garden lizards knows that females prefer men with bright orange heads. I suppose it's a fashion statement, like wearing a fancy watch or an expensive tailored suit. But the color changing doesn't stop there. The Oriental garden lizard will turn itself dark red whenever it has a successful battle with a rival male. It's almost a chauvinistic display of power, working like a warning to tell the other Oriental garden lizards to stay back unless they want a piece of the action. Imagine if people could do that. What a world that would be, where men turn strange colors while out on the town to impress ladies and scare off would-be competitors. The SpiderMan Lizard. By far the coolest looking lizard on the list today is the SpiderMan Lizard. This strange reptile looks more like the Marvel superhero than any animal in nature. It has stunning red and blue markings that look identical to the suit worn by the famous web slinger. But what's even more spectacular is that a photographer on vacation with his wife managed to capture an image of the SpiderMan lizard crouched on a rock in nearly the exact same position as the hero. This truly is a remarkable animal. The photo of it is even more remarkable and worth every bit of internet fame it receives. But of course it's not scientifically called the SpiderMan lizard. That would be too good to be true. Its proper name is the Mwanza flat-headed agama, and it's native to Africa. Like other reptiles, the most colorful lizard is often the leader of the group. The lizard is also skittish, spending most of its time out of the public eye, just like a certain web-slinging hero you might know. What's the most exciting or strange-looking reptile you've ever seen? Have you encountered a brightly colored snake, or perhaps a lizard or iguana? Tell me about it in the comments below. Then remember to subscribe to Talltanic if you have not already, and get more amazing content just like this every day. The punk turtle. The Mary River turtle is also known as the punk turtle primarily because of its bright green mohawk. This is one of the most exceptional turtles you will ever find on Earth. It's a freshwater turtle and it lives only in the Mary River in Australia. What's really remarkable is that the turtle was kept as a local pet for at least 20 years before it was formally recognized as a new species. The most distinctive feature of the turtle is of course its hairy green mohawk, but it is so much more than that. According to Edge of Existence, the Mary River turtle moved away from every other living turtle species sometime around 40 million years ago. To make sense of that, it's generally believed that humans moved away from being chimpanzees somewhere around 10 million years ago. That means that even though this is a turtle, it's dramatically different from other turtles, and unfortunately it was placed on the red list as endangered just recently, as their numbers have been dropping since 1970. But here's the big kicker for the punk turtle. Other than looking like an aging rock star, the Mary River turtle is unable to breed before the age of 25. It takes them a quarter of a century to reach sexual maturity, which means that they have a very slow time procreating. It's not surprising that their numbers have been dropping recently, as even a small environmental stressor can cause a species as slow to breed as this one to go extinct. That's why species that are fast to reproduce end up surviving natural disasters and climate change much better compared to those that take a long time to mature and breed. Chinese crocodile lizard. Next up on the list is a semi-aquatic lizard known as a Chinese crocodile lizard. It's actually a really strange name as it does not look anything like a crocodile. It's found only in Vietnam and China, and indigenous people often refer to it as the lizard of great sleepiness. This is because it's a very lazy animal. The Chinese crocodile lizard will frequently fall into a metabolic pause, which is a state of complete motionlessness in which the lizard is unresponsive to any kind of stimulation for several hours. According to Smithsonian's National Zoo, it does this because it likes to conserve its energy. This is especially true when the temperature gets very low, and the Chinese crocodile lizard will basically just sleep until it gets a bit warmer. What's really bizarre is that some people believe that the Chinese crocodile lizard has the ability to cure a bad case of insomnia, but of course that's complete voodoo nonsense. Madagascar blind snake. The Madagascar blind snake is the grossest and weirdest thing that anyone can possibly imagine. It's extremely rare and far more elusive than any other animal on today's list. In fact, it was first discovered in 1905 and was only spotted again in Madagascar in 2005, approximately 100 years since the initial sighting. Of course, this does make sense considering the blind snake is subterranean and does not come out of the ground for very many reasons, but for that matter, they are still difficult to find. When the last live sample was collected, it took experts a painstaking amount of time just to find one. According to a blind snake expert from Harvard University, you could potentially dig forever without ever finding a Madagascar blind snake. They are not at all like earthworms, even if they kind of look similar. But what exactly is this animal? Is it a snake? Is it a worm? The answer is that it's related to a group of creatures called worm snakes. This is a family of animals that live under the rocks or sand. They avoid light like the plague, which is why you will never find one on the surface. As for the strange diet of this animal, they mainly eat eggs and ant larvae. Armadillo lizard. The armadillo lizard is the closest a person can get to having a pet dragon. Komodo dragons may be the closest thing to fire-breathing reptiles that we have on Earth, but you can under no circumstance have one as a pet. It would literally eat you the first chance it got. But the armadillo lizard is a totally different story. This uniquely exotic lizard has a spiny coat of armor and acts just like an armadillo when under threat. The lizard will curl up and bite its tail, creating a defensive ball of spikes that is nearly impenetrable. They can be found in the wild in South Africa and are actually fairly good pets to have. They are easy to care for, they are fairly social, and they're not big enough to eat you. Plus, they look kinda like tiny dragons, making them arguably the coolest and most unique exotic pet that a person can have in their home. Canters giant softshell. The Canters giant softshell turtle is an exceptional specimen. Individuals have been known to reach 6 feet 2 meters in length, making them some of the bigger turtles on Earth. They are also some of the most unique looking turtles ever. They are sometimes referred to as frog-faced turtles because of their strange facial features. Their bodies are flat, as if they were squished by a semi-truck, and yet they have faces that look a lot like frogs. This is an extremely strange animal that lives all throughout Southeast Asia and is currently facing disaster from extinction. To put it plainly, this is not the kind of turtle you're familiar with. It has an extremely hard time on land, mostly because of its flat, oddly shaped body, but they don't usually go on land. The giant softshell turtle spends 95% of its life buried in the sand under the water. They only need to surface 2 times a day to take a breath, and they spend the rest of their time waiting for food to swim in front of their face. Talk about an easy life. The grumpy frog. Now it's time to meet the world's grumpiest frog. Just one look at this clearly angry frog is enough to make you laugh or to ruin your day. It's been called the grumpiest amphibian on Earth, and it has a fairly miserable name to match its sour demeanor. It's known as the black rain frog, and it does appear that its soul is saturated in a black cloud of discontent. The frog wears a perpetual frown 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, but this unique and exotic animal does more than just look angry. It's a burrowing amphibian from the southern coast of Africa, which means that it spends most of its time underground hiding inside of its burrow. But get ready to be surprised, even with such an off-putting frown, the frog is not that grumpy. According to scientists, the frog is very considerate. For example, during the ritual mating season, the female frog will secrete a sticky substance from her back, that way the male frog won't fall off while trying to copulate. After the eggs are fertilized, the male frog will then hide in the burrow with the eggs to protect them from any potential predators. And finally, the black rain frog has an exceptional defense mechanism. When it's scared or threatened, it will puff itself up just like a pufferfish, turning it into a big, fat, frowning blob. Pig-nosed turtle. The pig-nosed turtle has the rudest name ever. Imagine someone calling you a pig-nosed human. You would be outraged, but I suppose that considering this is a turtle we're talking about, it probably does not care what you call it. The truth is that the pig-nosed turtle is one of the rarest and most exotic reptiles that can be found on the earth. And yes, it has a snout that looks remarkably like a pig snout. But it gets even weirder than just having a pig nose. These turtles are altogether strange, with unique flippers, olive green shells, and huge tails that they can almost use like clubs. You can find these types of turtles all the way from Australia to New Guinea, living in the rivers and lagoons. But unlike other turtles, pig-nosed turtles prefer to eat plants rather than animal matter. Mostly, they eat fruit and leaves that they find in the water. They are also pretty big, weighing up to about 50 pounds, 22 kilograms. And here's some excellent news. Unlike many of these exotic animals that are, sadly, going extinct, there is no possibility of that happening to the pig-nosed turtle anytime soon. They are very common throughout Australia and even considered to be pests in some areas. Which of these unique reptiles is your favorite? And have you ever seen one in real life? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and come back soon for another amazing video.